everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Non-Gamers React, where I introduce people who don't know video games or haven't heard video games in 30 years or so.
I wish it was only 30 years, but yeah, thanks.
No, I was not an age comment. Today I have Dr. Wendy LeBorgne with me. You know, I haven't talked to you since my vocal injury.
It's been a minute. I don't hear from people, I always think no news is good news.
That's
Usually
true, right?
I say my job is crisis management, so.
Yeah, that's fair. When I suffered a vocal injury when I was in Cincinnati, I had I think it was a single hemorrhage of my vocal fold, and we had to go through intensive vocal therapy and vocal, essentially learning how to reuse the voice and restore the muscles. And really, I remember I was on vocal rest for something like crazy, like 2 weeks, and that whole process. But I saw you. I think it was at least once a week when we were going through all the
probably in the very initial phases. Yes. Yeah.
Well, first of all, you don't know anything about video game music. I know your kids play Fortnite or Roblox or something.
Something like that. Like I said to you, I said I don't know if you want me or not. My last personal video game interaction is kind of like Atari circa 1980s of Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. And then I did have a ColecoVision. I don't even know if your gamers know what ColecoVision is.
They do.
Right?
They do.
And there was a Smurf game that my sister and I used to play all the time. So we played Smurfs a lot.
All right, yeah, I'd say you're a non-gamer. And then tell a little bit, I guess, the 90-second, who are you? What do you do?
Thank you for having me on, first of all. I'm kind of excited, slightly nervous about all of this.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
I am a voice pathologist and a singing voice specialist. So essentially what my life has been, I started my life as a performer, actually. I have a BFA in musical theater.
That's right.
And I wasn't sure. I, quite frankly, wanted to be a waitress in New York the rest of my life. And I came from a family who, my dad was a physical therapist, my sister's a PT, my mom ran the practice. And I really missed the science behind the athletes, essentially. And I still wanted to engage this. So I got my master's and my doctorate in communication sciences and disorders with a specialty in voice and upper airway. So my clinical career and research has really been on what makes elite voices elite as vocal athletes. So if we think of our, top performing physical athletes, like our Olympians, since right now we just sort of finished the Winter Olympics, right? These are the most extraordinary humans that compete in their sport. My life is essentially parallel that a little bit into the elite world of performing arts, from the Metropolitan Opera to Broadway to Grammy artists. And so my job is to look at sort of what's healthy. What do you want to accomplish artistically? Because sometimes what you want to accomplish artistically might not always be vocally healthy, but we need to make it sustainable for you. And as a vocal athlete, I look at things like flexibility, agility, stamina, consistency of performance, and excellence. Just like every athlete, you're going to get hurt at some point, because that is part of the sport that you play, regardless, whether you're a professional singer, speaker, or skier. So my job is kind of like a physical therapist for the vocal athlete. I am the author of a book called The Vocal Athlete, and that is what I do. So helping people safely and effectively rehabilitate vocal injuries and get them back into performance at whatever level that looks like for them.
It's incredible. I don't think it's a thing that people really understand, because it's obviously extremely specialized. But what's amazing is that it's like with any specialty, it's like you don't need to appeal to everyone. You have to appeal to the people that need it. And it's amazing that, you are like right there assisting and helping and ensuring that people are, not only protecting themselves, but also being realistic. Like for musical theater, for instance, I think I remember I don't know if I heard the talk you gave or something, but you were basically saying like, you in this room, I don't know why I remember this, but like people, you're like, you in this room, many of you will suffer a vocal injury because of the nature of the style of singing and what's required and so on and so forth. So I think about it a lot in my day-to-day because I have this wonderful Sennheiser 416 microphone, but I do speak on my vocal fry. Honestly, my range since stopping singing has dropped like a third. I don't think I have a high C anymore.
But if you don't use it, you lose it, right? As we get older, it becomes more difficult to touch our toes. But if you keep stretching every day and maintain the flexibility, your larynx is made up of cartilages and ligaments and muscles, just like your knee. And so we have to think about it that way. And regardless of the genre that we sing, whether it's musical theater, pop, rock, R&B, hip hop, or classical, it truly doesn't matter. If you are a vocal athlete at the highest level, the risk of injury is almost guaranteed. But kind of like if we think of like a professional football player, like if you or I stubbed our toe walking down the street, we're going to put some tape on it and keep on moving with our life. If we're a professional football player and we stub our toe or break our toe, it literally can take us out of the game. And so the things that people may or may not experience with their voices every day, for the average person who uses their voice, non-elite professionals, it may or may not bother them. But for you or I, that slight decrease of range, if you had to go back and audition right now, what would that look like for you? Could you do those vocal backflips to get you the job that you need and consistently be able to do that 8 times a week?
Yeah, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. What I've brought for you today is essentially this is the vocal episode, more or less. And what I've I wanted to cover a broad range of things that exist within the lexicon of video game music. It's interesting. It's kind of at the forefront of like possibility. There's a lot of genre bending that occurs. There's sort of something for everybody, and there's no like standard. And so by that, it's like you never know what you're going to discover, and you never know what you're going to learn. So in this particular playlist, I've got some opera with some synthetic stuff in it, some heavy metal, some boys choir, and the purpose of this is basically just to have a chat. I've never had a scientific person on, but you also have, of course, you have musical sensibilities. So I think when we listen to these pieces, kind of whatever comes to mind that may be interesting or worth bringing up that you feel or hear is okay. And also, I guess, just your own interest in whether or not you like the pieces. I wasn't really sure how to broach the episode, but I think this will be really fun because you're bringing such a unique lens to even like, what's happening in the mechanism when it's straight tone singing? What's the difference? So I think that's going to be really enjoyable, and it will be for me at least. So at the very least, it's a good conversation for us, and I think everybody else. I'm so excited
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. So let's dive in. I wanted to start with a beautiful piece from a game called Ace Combat 6. And Ace Combat is a fighter plane game, but it's like very heartfelt and it's very honest. And the story, do you know what anime is?
I mean, like the animation,
like Japanese.
Generally, yes.
Yeah. Speaking of vocal, like anime actors, especially Japanese anime actors, like the screaming that's involved. And like, there's the famous, the Kamehameha from, Dragon Ball, both Japanese and English voiceover. It's Kamehameha, and it's just all, you can hear like the blood in the chorus. Anyway, it's like that. Like the story is very honest and very pure, even though it's like a fighter plane game. So you would think like lots of shooting, and yes, that's all there. But also there's these very quiet moments where usually at every final big section where you have to destroy the weapon that's going to destroy the planet or destroy the city, there's this this moment of vocal clarity and almost religious. And this track is slow, but it's a boys' choir. It's called Chandelier.
Recall
Huh. I heard some things in there that I want to talk about, but what's your sort of like feeling when you listen to that piece right away? Like, was that surprise maybe a little bit? Were you expecting that?
Yeah, no, so I think the purity of the unchanged prepubescent male voice is just something we hear, that ethereal, pure sound. With full disclosure that a couple of years ago, I think it was pre-COVID. I can't remember. It's all just a time warp in my life. But I did, it was like a 2 or 3 year study that I was involved in regarding boy choir and the changing adolescent male voice.
Oh, wow.
Some research that I've done. So again, just listening to this music, I mean, that pure, unchanged soprano boy voice. Historically, what does it represent? Sociopolitically, what does it represent within the church? Where do we hear these boy choirs? And then what does it physiologically mean? We can always talk around that as well. But that purity and ethereal sound is what came initially to my thought process when I just listened to the music of it.
You know, it's interesting. I hadn't heard this piece. So what's really funny about it is this is juxtaposed with like bombs going off and like machine gun fire. And what's really interesting to me is purely from a listening perspective. And I wanted to ask you about this because there were times where the breath, essentially they got stuck and they kind of hit their like walls where they still managed to pop over the top of whatever they needed to do. But can you explain, I guess, the difference between, in this case, the boy sopranos and the boy altos, and also why sometimes the intonation might dip? Like, is that...
I was going to say, there were some moments in there where the intonation wasn't quite lining up.
And is that happening from a tension perspective, or is it, you know, like what would kind of, is it a lack of breath support, is it producing from the chords itself? Like,
it could be any and all of the above. So just like the 2-minute how voice is produced, typically your breath is your power generator for your vocal cords. Your vocal cords are set into vibration, obviously, at certain frequencies, and those frequencies align. Frequency is the objective measure of pitch. So pitch is something that we perceive based off of biases, like is my voice high pitched or low pitch? That's based off your biases, but we can actually measure the fundamental frequency. And then everything up above the vocal folds filters the sound and creates different vowels and consonants and timbres of the voice or colors of the voice. As much as we like to isolate out, is it this mechanism or this mechanism or this mechanism, they're all interconnected and they play with each other. So in listening to those places where I feel like we were coming to kinds of the ends of vocal phrases and we were probably running out of a little bit of breath, and when there's not enough power to keep those vocal folds vibrating at the rate that we need them to, that may slow down a little bit, which if the vocal fold rate or the fundamental frequency slows, the pitch decreases slightly. So we hear that slight sag in pitch. I don't know that I ever heard them go sharp. I think I heard them go...
Yeah, they definitely went flat.
I heard them go flat a few times, but I don't know that I heard them go sharp. So, yeah.
It's an interesting thing, too. Like, when I would get really nervous, and I know that this is not an exception to the rule, there was a tendency actually to go sharp because of what that would be because of more pressure, right? And
so increased breath flow, pressure, and sometimes, like, if we get a little tense, right? So the larynx is made up of those muscles too. So the vocal folds are actually muscles themselves. The technical name, thyroarytenoid muscle. If we get elongation or tensing of that muscle, that's how pitch increases. So that idea of ooh, that's a tensing or elongation of that muscle. And it can happen through flow and tension. So yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. I remember because my whole body would lock up, and then when I would, you can't breathe, and then naturally the pitch just kind of... That's a soft opener for you. Just a nice little boys choir, nothing crazy. I wanted to pivot over to something kind of crazy and really fun. So this is a song from a game called Guilty Gear Strive. And Guilty Gear Strive is a fighting game. I think Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. I assume, do you know what those are?
Like I know like MMA fighting, is that what you're talking about?
No. So it's okay. You're literally like, in a 2D space with like a background, and there's like nice art and stuff, and then in the foreground you have your two fighters. and you're just going head to head, and it's literally a technique. Like there's like certain button combos create certain moves. You can grapple, you can punch, and anyway, the goal is to win, right? Like, so I love it. This is actually amazing. So in Guilty Gear,
my boys who are both, well, I have like a 16 and a 21-year-old, they're gonna be mortified that I know none of the names of these games.
No, this is amazing. What's up, guys? How you doing? Guilty Gear Strive is basically like a cartoon fighting game.
Okay.
Where it's based literally in, you'll see the images on the screen, but it's literally like like an anime or like a Japanese cartoon. The style is very 2D, but you can, with the technology, you can actually, you're fighting each other, but like in like a cartoon space versus like trying to look real.
Okay.
Like Mortal Kombat is like, Scorp, get over here. Any of this stuff? Amazing. It doesn't matter. It's the answer. But so each character, I love it. Each character has their own theme.
Their own theme music or their own.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you pick a character, that theme will play. It's either the enemy character or your character. I can't remember, but the theme of the character will play. This is a singer called Molly Daisy, and I think you'll be pretty stunned by this. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but this is extras. Elphelt is the character from Guilty Gear Strive. Ignite the drive in your soul. It's calling you. There's no visuals, but that's okay.
Okay, I get the idea.
Yeah. Enough to be a fool. I'm so unconscious. Don't want to be away. No one can find me. I know who I am. I want to just a little lost. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to keep it. I'm not sure where, but don't get me wrong. Same singer. Did you like that?
Yeah. So like, again, my year, I'm listening it through the lens of, great, if this were my vocal athlete, what are the requirements that they have to do? They've got to be able to sing in head voice. They've got to be able to sing in a mix. And they've basically got to be able to sing death metal. As somebody who trains all of these styles and then also helps my vocal athletes find efficiency in these styles. And having worked to some degree, and I cannot comment on this singer this recording because I don't know for sure. When you go in the studio to lay these tracks down, right, there's some studio magic that happens too. So at the beginning, we get that very death metal sound, like that, whoa, 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 whoa. So finding what that is. So when we teach that vocal distortion, we can do some vocal distortion naturally with like false vocal cords, palate. You're really a lot of times in real life, in live performance with like that death metal sound, you're really eating that mic of like, wah, wah. And then sometimes we actually do it on the inhale. So we'll get this like, wah, like that. Yes. Mm-hmm. So to produce that's kind of my ear. And then that really grunge feel at the beginning. The midpoint, we get kind of this shift into this dee, 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 like living very much probably what I would expect her real voice to sound like. Mm-hmm. And then there's some layering that happens there where I suspect there's multiple tracks happening where she records some of that grunge, some of the real, and then the kind of like real high stuff at the end of the woo, whatever she's doing. About 4 minutes and 15 seconds into it, 4 minutes and 18, we got a different style shift as well, which was more similar to that mid section. But if I had to think about this character, they're like multipolar because we've got like multiple voices happening here. I don't know what happens 100%. In her character or what, but if you think about your voice embodying or reflecting what that character it's that initial like wah 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 wah, but I can be a girl and I can be right? Like it's that kind of feel to me.
Is it rare to have a female who can create that kind of? Is that common to have that kind of grunge metal? I've only ever heard it with with male death metal singers. I've never heard a female death metal singer.
Oh no, yeah, I actually have had a few female death metal singers in my studio and in my client base. So yeah, it's not really any different in the mechanism. In the mechanism of how we do it in a most sustainable way. Yeah. It also depends, and I can't judge on this at all, but is there some additional layered distortion and lower frequencies added on that soundboard at the beginning to boost her so she doesn't have to work as hard to do that?
Of course. Do you find that like for instance, I don't really like country singing as an example. Do you find that, it's hard, right? Because you have to be objective, but also you're also a person. So naturally you have these subjective tendencies. Is there a style of singing that is preferential to you?
So as a voice pathologist and as a vocal injury specialist, when I listen to music, whether it's death metal, country, hip hop, whatever, I'm listening for efficiency of sound. And I always ask the artist, what do you want? What do you want out of this? Right. And how do I help you do that in the most efficient way? When I put on my singing voice teacher hat, when I'm asked to evaluate sound of what I like and what I don't like, is it aesthetically appropriate for that genre? That's a different question. And my personal preferences, if you were to ask me what my favorite music to just listen to is, because I listen to pretty much all kinds of music, my favorite things that I really love listening to is probably jazz, vocal jazz, because I just think that there is so much authenticity and vocal play in the jazz sounds. And I listen, my background's music theater, so I listen to a lot of musical theater, but I love just free listening. I choose jazz. Country is not my favorite, but that is, of course,
we all have our preferences.
Yeah.
I want to pivot over to something pretty interesting, which is actually the male falsetto. Okay. Which I do not have. Man, what's interesting is that I find that, I don't know if based on your experiences, okay, hydrate, break, fine, me too.
Also saying out there that nothing that we eat or drink goes over our vocal cords.
Oh, I know, right? I need soup for my cords. No. So I found, and I don't know if this is true, but tenors tend to have a harder time producing falsetto than baritones. Is that accurate?
I would say that's true.
It's because of course baritones tend to be countertenors, don't they?
Yes. My favorite countertenors are really like baritone voices who have that super reinforced falsetto that's just amazing.
And is that because, so countertenors, for those of you that don't know, are essentially a voice type above tenor. Tenor is the highest of the male voice types, but then above that are usually baritone, for most cases, I would say, right? Or baritones.
Yeah, I mean, they're singing soprano literature, essentially.
But that's just them using essentially like a falsetto, a flipping into head voice.
Yeah, that's a whole big discussion of like chest voice, head voice, mix, falsetto, beyond the scope of this.
Yeah, I think so. But in this particular instance, this is from a game called Hades. Zagreus, who is I believe is the son of Hades. Okay. He doesn't want to be in the underworld anymore. And so he tries to climb up the stairs. I've never fully played it, but they climb up the stairs and he wants to essentially escape the underworld. If I recall, at one point he must encounter Orpheus, of course, the Greek. And so this is actually the composer, Darren Korb, singing the Lament of Orpheus, and it's a very haunting piece, and it really, really features a prominent male falsetto in the case of Darren. And I wanted to share it with you.
Cool. So that's really interesting in that I don't know when this game came out, but that Orpheus rendition, both the guitar and the vocals, is very similar in sound and presentation to Orpheus in Hadestown the musical.
Oh, really?
In Hadestown the musical, we get this la da 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 in Orpheus that he has, that recurrent theme happens, like, and it's in falsetto, and he carries this guitar with him through the whole thing. Like, I almost like want to look at my phone and be like, when did this come out? Because that Orpheus sound is very similar. And so then I also want to go back and look at my Greek mythology of who is Orpheus? Is he really this pure, like he's made this commitment in this underworld, but he wants to come up, and Persephone and all of these things, right? And so it goes back to almost that boy choir sound of that ethereal, like, when we have that male falsetto. And but it is like, I listened to that and I was like, it sounds like Hadestown. It sounds like Orpheus in Hadestown.
That's crazy.
It is.
I mean, it's like, yes. So the boys choir, ethereal innocence. And I find it interesting to hear a man really tap into that upper register. It kind of does give that same aesthetic of like, I'm damaged. I've been hurt. I've been betrayed. There's this, the plaintive piangendo quality, the crying quality that is, I find it kind of, whether Hadestown and Hades, like, it's all very, I think, bold. It
is, and it's vulnerable, right? Like, it's this vulnerability. Yeah. I don't know, because I can talk about other genres, but I can't think of many instances in the opera world where we hear the male falsetto, unless it's like truly a countertenor. Like, I just heard John Holiday sing Carabino, and it was phenomenal, right? Like, it was just amazing. But we don't hear like falsetto being used as a male presenting character oftentimes in opera, but we do see it in musical theater, and we see it in jazz, and we see it in, like, even Beach Boys, like that. We hear it in Beach Boys rap. We hear it in like 1950s, like Sherry Woo. We hear all of that happening, right? And I don't know that has the same vulnerability quality that we hear in what we just listened to, but there is that male use of falsetto. It's also, I mean, I think it can be haunting. Like, this is definitely haunting. This is eerie, like in Sherry or like some of the Beach Boys stuff. It's more fun and happy and go-lucky. Like, that's the feel you get from that falsetto.
I think it is it's just sort of an abnormal thing that we don't necessarily hear day to day. And the choice of using it is, like I said, it feels different, and it feels like it like boosts the adrenaline. And it's also interesting how, like, mechanically, I've tried to sing this, I physically cannot. Like, I cannot access the upper. I think it goes up to like a high E at one point. Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't even know. Like, and also too, I was thinking to myself while listening to it, I was like, if this is in chunks, how that still means that Darren had to sing it. Like, I remember talking with him, and he like said that the way that he accessed it was actually like leaning forward and opening up the back of his, like, the back. So
I was going to say, you want to try some falsetto to play? So one of the ways that, if I have guys that can't necessarily access it, I have them try to imitate like Mickey Mouse, like, hey, boys and girls.
Hey, boys and girls.
Yeah, but even more fun. Like, we just do a little vocal play here, right? Like,
okay.
Hey, boys and girls.
Hey, boys and girls.
So that's falsetto-y, right? The other way we sometimes access this, and this comes from some of the work of Mary Saunders Barton, who's a voice teacher, retired from Penn State, but she does a cowboy exercise, Yahoo. So the yah is in your chest voice and the who's in falsetto, so we get like Yahoo. And if you just do that first, try the Yahoo.
Yahoo!
Right, and then we pitch it like 1-5-1. Yahoo, yah.
Yahoo, yah.
So do it up the octave. If you could.
Yahoo, yah.
Right, and then you might extend the exercise to go Yahoo, and try to bring that falsetto down.
Yahoo. Ooh.
So you play with it.
I still have it, Wendy.
You too. I'm excited for you.
That's interesting. Yeah, okay. God, it's always so awkward to do these things. It's amazing how, like, how much vulnerability is required to sing?
It is. And 100%. Like, I was talking about this earlier, and today it's like, when you go in to play a role, right? Like you embody that, so you get to be somebody else. And in all your video games, it's like they're the character. But if you, Marco, have to go sing a recital as Marco, then that vulnerability of like, oh my gosh, there is no mask, there is no costume, it is all me. Yeah. Love it or hate it, right?
Do you find it's weird in the corporate world when you're doing like voice, for presentations and for presenting? Like, I feel like corporate is a little bit even more like locked up.
I think it depends. I think at the end of the day, it becomes about vocal authenticity, right? Mm-hmm. So what is your authentic voice? Does it align with who you are, what you're saying? I think in all of these cases, if you are inauthentic, we recognize that. Mm-hmm. If you get super emotional, that's also super reflected in voice, right? Yeah. And I think going back to that falsetto conversation, where it almost verges sometimes on like crying, sobbing, that like where does that vulnerability come in? Like if we get into that space, like is it mimicking that sound of cry, fear, things like that?
Absolutely. Wow, that's cool. This is the thing I love about video games is that, we just listened to 3 pieces that are like 4 pieces, however many pieces, that are totally different from each other.
So can I ask you a question? Like, do all video games have singing in them, or do some just have instrumental?
It depends on the context. Like some there might be a moment where we really want an epic chorus, right? It's like a very classic epic chorus, like, oh, epic chorus. But then there's also other times where you have I've got examples of like a soft singer. And other times you just have instrumentals. It just depends. Okay. It just depends. I specifically asked my community to provide me with singing because I explained who you were very briefly in like a sentence. And so these are all actually tracks from my community that are like that they thought would be interesting to like.
And they're
present.
Really long. Like they're like 3 to 5 minutes long. Like these are long songs.
Yeah. No loops here. This is all like sort of, and that's one of the things that video game music does is it will repeat. It'll hit a point, and then the thing is like most of the stuff I'm playing you is fairly modern within the last like probably say like 15-ish years. Okay. Maybe 20 years. But in general, because of limitations, you couldn't necessarily get a singer. You could get synthetic, where you're playing it out on the synthesizer or something. But it's not. It's really like a fairly, recent, within reason, phenomenon of having like a singer, and having like singer ringers that would like, because there's a lot of times that these folks kind of reappear. And they're used a lot, because.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like my artists that do this, the studio artists go in and they'll lay down and they'll go in and do different games. I was going to ask you another question. It's a dumb question. Oh, I know the dumb question. So if a song like the one you were playing, the boy choir one, that was the first song that you played. Yeah. If you like, everybody can laugh at me. If you beat the level before the song's over, like what happens? Does the song end?
The song stops.
Okay. So you don't necessarily get to hear the whole thing. Okay.
No, it depends. Cause sometimes there's a button. Sometimes there's, because it's all created, and don't quote me because I don't know all the details on this, but based on my limited understanding of how the mixing occurs, there are certain moments where if something is triggered at a certain point, I believe what is capable, again, I don't know for sure, but you can actually like put the ending of the song in a certain spot. So it's like queued up.
Kind of like makes a coda for you situation.
Yeah. Okay. Depending on what's happening. Or I'm pretty sure in the case of, I don't know if that's the case in Ace Combat 6 that I played for you, but that button will just not happen and it'll just sort of end. Okay. Or it'll fade out or whatever.
Because I was just curious. I was like, these are long. Like, are you like you stay in the level until the song gets done?
Like in the instance of Elphelt, the second theme that I played for you, like if you beat the guy before the song ends, then you do. You know what I mean? And then that's it. It won't necessarily continue.
And then when you go to like the next scene, then it's like a new music. Mm-hmm. Okay. Clearly, I am uninformed.
No, it's excellent. Game realm. Imagine if you were a plant, though, and you were deeply entrenched in gaming, and you were just asking questions that like, it'd be so funny to me. It'd be so funny if you actually knew a ton about video games and you were able to ask these questions that are so like honest.
Well, I don't. My children do play games. I'm not even sure what they play. I just know we're.
Oh, good. Okay. I love it. So this is actually a Scat. So this is going to be some jazz. This is called, I don't even know what this is, Battleblock Theater. Emphasis on Scat, secret stage.
It's a secret. It's a secret. It's a secret.
Oh my god.
Skip-a-dip-a-dop, skip-a-dooby-doo, scubba-dubba-dubba, bobba-dee-bop, habba-dooby, scubba-dabba-dabba, scubba-dum-dum-dee-dee, scubba-dibba-dip, scooby-dooby-dip, scubba-dibba-dibba, scubba-dooby, now you're talking.
Okay, so
can you imagine
ridiculous.
laying down those tracks? Can you imagine sitting in the studio?
I was just thinking that.
Right? Okay.
Obviously, like, I think if we were listening to that and we were like, it sounds ridiculous, but actually, as I was listening to it, I was like, this is actually like insane, like kind of difficult. Like
it is. So I wouldn't say, for me, when I listen to that, if you're without you putting the label of Scat on it, I would say it's a combination of Scat, rap, and beatboxing, as well as some Muppets thrown in.
Yeah.
Like we get that resonance shift, but we get the beatboxing elements of like,
yeah,
we get some vocal percussion happening. So which can happen in Scat, but I wouldn't say that's more, I don't feel like that's necessarily a jazz Scat that we heard. I hope that's a super fun video game because that's a super
I'm pretty
fun
sure
vocal track.
I'm pretty sure it is.
But we hear all of those elements. That vocal percussion is very evident, certainly at the beginning, and then we start layering on, not da 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 da. So you get that like almost that hi-hat kind of feeling for percussion, right?
This
they
is
start
difficult,
layering
right?
onto it with like and we start layering it with like resonance timbres that are different. We hear like the animals, the chicken sound comes in at the end, the balking. So it was really interesting and fun.
This takes a degree of skill, right? I mean, like,
yes, I would also expect, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I can't, if it's one person doing it, I think they're having to layer the tracks. So I'm like, there's not, it's not all being laid down at one time.
No, I can't imagine.
Like one person may be doing it, but there's too many layers that we're hearing at one time to be able to like accurately say that all those things are happening. Like there's some really, really great vocal percussion that's happening for sure, but I'm just making a guess on that.
Is that like a thing that maybe people don't understand how like it can affect the voice in a big way? Like this is not, you can't just like casually start doing vocal percussion, and I mean like that can also cause issues, right? Like I mean,
but you can do it in a healthy way. We have professional beatboxers that do it all the time, and it becomes a matter of like, you know, just like any singing technique, and I'm not a beatboxer. I will not embarrass myself with doing that.
Oh, come on.
Right? Like, but that, you know, like there is a series of learning how to do those things and become more proficient. I'll have to send you the link. Maybe your folks will be interested in it. I have it like an MRI of somebody doing beatboxing, and you can see the like the internal, like what you see is the tongue mobility is spectacular. You see some vocal involvement, but a lot of it happens above the vocal folds. You see how they do the vocal percussion, like what's with the tongue, what's with the palate, what's with the pharyngeal wall against the epiglottis. These are all anatomical terms, sorry. But a lot of it is happening, it's not all, the folks that do it well, it's not all here.
So it's like nasopharynx?
It's a lot of this. To watch it in real time it's extraordinary to me. Like to go, wow. People talk about tongue tension is impacting my voice. Yeah. Go watch these beatboxers. They have so much flexibility and coordination in their instrument. It's insane.
From an anatomical perspective, I mean, like, you know, it's amazing how we have these two little muscles that vibrate. You know, I was explaining it earlier today where it's like if it's you know, lower, it vibrates slower. If it's higher, it vibrates faster, right? If I recall. Yes, you're like, no.
You're right. They stretch out.
And then, you know, just the fact that there's all these muscles and all these little connective tissues and the hyoid bone and the, you know, the way that the epiglottis and how everything's connected and, you know, how you breathe and how the air, you know, it's just incredible how, you know, then you go up into the throat and you have, you know, the tongue and the oropharynx stuff and the nasopharynx and how the cavities and all the individual things and all the holes in the, you know, all this stuff is, now obviously all this is digital, but it's still interesting to hear how this stuff is produced and made. It's incredible. I mean, did I miss anything about the anatomy?
No, I feel like now's the time for me to bring out
Bust
my larynx.
It out.
Like,
that's right.
Ta-da, the larynx, right? But no, you know, so this is your hyoid bone that you were just talking about. It's the cocktail party trivia of it is the only bone in the body that's not connected to another bone. It's connected to your tongue above and the thyroid cartilage below. And then your vocal folds actually live in there. So there's like the two little white bands in there and air goes in there. Your esophagus or your food pipe sits behind here. So when food goes down the wrong pipe, it's literally going down the wrong pipe. It should go down to your esophagus.
Feels bad.
The pink thing is your epiglottis, which covers up that airway when you swallow. But from a physiologic standpoint, there are 13 intrinsic muscles of the larynx, which are responsible for pitch and opening and closing them so you can breathe, because you need to open those vocal folds to breathe and close them when you make sound or swallow. And then you have 26 extrinsic laryngeal muscles, and those muscles raise your larynx up, so they're laryngeal elevators or they're laryngeal depressors. And those are mostly responsible for when you swallow. So if everybody wants to feel their throat and you swallow very lightly, you're going to feel your larynx go up and down. And those are the extrinsic muscles. So some of them have attachments outside of the voice box themselves. And if we do things like even if you sing the same pitch, but you make the tube longer, it's going to sound deeper. So like, if I think about yawning, so if like a flute and a piccolo play the same frequency, that piccolo is always going to sound higher and brighter in timbre than the flute, because the flute's tube is longer than the piccolo. So when you have a tinier human, then their tube's shorter than a taller human. And so just the natural acoustics of everyone's individual instrument, going back to the idea that these are extraordinary voices, right? All of them are. To me, there might be some vocal airbrushing that happens in the studio, but every artist that you've played for me, these are extraordinary voices. These are not like people that just pick it up off the street.
Yeah, no.
I just want to be clear on like everything you've played me. Like these are really good singers.
No, I think so too. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and thank you for sharing the anatomy lesson. I think it's actually really I think it's amazingly interesting. And again, there's so much that I think people don't know.
Yeah.
That I think like even just the tiniest bit of understanding can lead to such a deep sense of appreciation. I hope. I wasn't pointing at you, Benny.
Yeah.
I was pointing at the audience. Because these details.
And no matter where you start, right? Like if you think of yourself as a vocal athlete, I mean, you've trained for a long time as a vocal athlete. But if you and I wanted to pick up a brand new sport, let's say pickleball, and I've never played pickleball before. So we were starting at a beginning level, but we can do training, motor learning of how to hit the ball and how to move, and we will advance as pickleball players. And we might not be in like the pickleball Olympics, but we are going to get better, right? And that holds true for everybody who uses their voice. It is made up of cartilages and ligaments and muscles, and we all start at a baseline. We all have a vocal baseline. And we all can train those muscles and coordination of the system to improve should we choose. And just authenticity for me is huge, right? Like, don't be inauthentic to your instrument and be something you're vocally not.
But does that mean that anybody, even if they feel that they are tone deaf, because there's no such thing, right? It's just a question of like finding the musculature to hit the individual pitches.
There is tone deafness, but it is actually very rare, and it's actually neurologically based. So a lot more people have their own like relative sense of pitch. Like they don't do well at matching pitch, but they're not tone deaf. True tone deafness lies deep in the brain. We might sometimes have to go, okay, start wherever you can and let's go higher and lower. So you have to do a lot of ear training, but no, most everybody should be able to improve.
It's really interesting too, because it's like, well, where does when someone comes in, they go, where does the adjusting of where does the adjusting of the pitch come in? Does it come in from the diaphragm and the stomach and the body and the breath support, or does it come from the actual processes in the mouth and in the throat? You know what I mean?
Well, if you are just adjusting vowel and you keep the frequency the same. So if we get E-A-O, this stays the same. Breath pressure and flow stays the same. I'm adjusting everything up above. So hopefully you perceive that I sang 5 different vowels. If we're doing like E, now I changed the tube length. So it changed the resonating frequencies. So you don't necessarily hear it like an E. So it's a combination of those things in all of us. It's not just one element typically. I'm
really intrigued. There's the next piece I'm going to play for you is from a game called Tonelico 3. In Tonelico, if I recall, everything that they sing is in, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure everything is in binary. Everything's in code. And so it's not pure like words as we would, think them. This is actually a common thing in video games where we'll create in sort of invented languages. But what I find really interesting about Tonelico's music is how pointed and nasal and pressed it is, while also just the you just have to hear it.
Okay.
It's really interesting. At first, quite jarring. It was for me, but I'll be curious to hear from your professional perspective and also your own ears. So this is exec. That's so funny. Exec _ flip _ rphage / period.
Okay, I'm ready.
There's some Japanese too.
So before you played this for me, I thought it was going to sound like shape note singing, like wah, you kind of nasal and aggressive and kind of and I was like, oh, that's not what this is at all. So my preconceived notions of what it was going to be. So the beginning of this to me almost sounded Monteverdi-esque, right? It was that very pure, like early music, chamber choir sound-ish. More breathiness than what we would like traditionally hear in that music, but there's a lot of breathiness in this sound of feeling, right? So that breathiness goes with youngness. It also is associated with femininity oftentimes when we add breathiness, because female voices have inherently slightly more breathiness than male voices. Then we get to the middle, and then I felt like it was like indigenous people, like chanty kind of. Da-da-da-da-da. Like I felt like I was around a campfire, and then there was a lot of that happening. We get the electric violin coming in, and the timbre to me at that point shifted in the vocals as well. So when we hear that very, it's not a fiddle. It might be an electric fiddle or an electric violin. The way that I perceived it being played was more like fiddle sense, like where we get a little bit more of that twang in the violin than a classical violin. And so that then became reflected to me in the vocals, where we heard more of the twang in the voice, which is, I think, what you probably perceived as nasality towards the end of the piece. To me, it was reflective of what I was hearing in the instrumentation.
Interesting. Is a piece like that jarring?
To hear the shift,
just the piece itself. Like, is it is it an appealing sound?
To me personally,
yeah.
I find it interesting. Like I'm good with dissecting it. I don't know that I'd want to go to a concert necessarily and listen to 2 hours of things that sound like that. But I find it unique, right? Like I think uniqueness is interesting. And the first time you hear it, it makes your ears perk up because it's not something you hear every day. And so your brain tries to engage I'm listening right now for the music, but I think if it were in the background of something that I was doing, slight pivot here, like I teach graduate neuroanatomy and neurophysiology and undergraduate neuroanatomy and neurophysiology. So the neurological basis of while you're doing something and listening to those acoustic transitions is probably doing something at a neural level that's creating an emotional response. So I find it interesting from that perspective. Yeah.
This is not something I want to put on in my car. However, I agree that I find it fascinating how we are able to take, as a composition, it's very unique because you're merging like a binary language with Japanese, and, someone clearly translated it. So it's also in English for us to read and understand the emotional impetus and why is it so pointed and why are all those layers there? And it's all very interesting. I think it's interesting how it's produced, the sort of the sharpness. This is actually a style in video games, which is really useful. I'm going to play you another theme here that's sort of similar, but very different. Just that very pointed nature of it almost makes it feel very declamatory and very announced and very pronounced. I am here. I find the modification of the voice and how it's used in presenting character just endlessly fascinating.
I agree. And, as I was listening to that too, I was just like, we're going from this very kind of staying within the vocal lines space at the beginning of that, where I feel very I'm okay, life is good, I'm going to stay in the lines. This voice, this singing, even if I don't understand what's happening, is making me feel like this. And then there's something that happens. And then we start to go outside of the lines, and you get vocally and energetically this more frenetic feeling that's coming from voice. Again, without getting too deep in the weeds, we have mirror neurons in our brain, right? So vocally, I will reflect how you speak to me, just our conversation. Mm-hmm. I will change my language to meet you. It's just who we are as humans, right? Mm-hmm. So when all of a sudden vocally, I don't understand the language, it gets more frenetic, it gets more energetic, it shifts in my space of oh my gosh, if I were going to talk, we would get that kind of feeling where we don't have that at the beginning of this piece. Mm-hmm. And so musically, that takes us in a very different direction. And emotionally, it takes us in a different direction. I imagine from from a composition standpoint too, the vocal energy that it takes from beginning to end of that, there are some acoustic shifts. There's some intensity shifts that have to happen to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's endlessly fascinating, and dissecting it is really fun. I wish that I had like the sheet music in front of me so I could see.
I know, right?
Let's pivot to something similar but different. Eternal Words from Monster Hunter. And Monster Hunter is, as the name describes, you hunt monsters. And you carve their bodies and wear their skin and use their bones as weapons. It's much more charming than that, but it sounds to the uninitiated, it must sound terrible.
It kind of sounds bad. Like I'm kind of like I'm a little afraid.
It's for ecological reasons. We have to restore the population. We have to mitigate the pop. You know, if a foreign monster comes into the space, you know, we have to make sure that it doesn't cause problems, and you know, anyway, it's actually much more mystical than how I described it.
Gia de gumando gora nam beruzansa Gia de gumando gora nam bela manja Mahorang furezang nesu doru ojane
Can you talk about the mechanism for like singing I mean, fundamentally the process of singing is the same, but the technique is different for how we produce that sort of straight toned, pointed declaim. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. And like this is almost, to me, when I listen to it, was like tribal, right? Like this is very chanty, 100%. But in like a tribal way. So you are using, like, in what I'm hearing, like like you're using your resonators to create some of that ring, versus like in a classical world we create the ring of the acoustic sound through vibrato and other things. So they're doing this sound that I hear is very more forward in terms of resonance. And again, we hear that twangy resonance within, it's not nasal necessarily, there's moments of it, but it is not the loft that we get in like a ooh, that one before we heard that has that very like a ooh, that's very lofty in the resonating spaces. This is very which is very like right here with the back of the tongue and the hard palate, which shapes the sound. So acoustically, the same instrument can produce a lot of different sounds, right? It's a matter of, I think of it as like Play-Doh, or even like, I think sometimes I use the word to describe it as like an artist's palette. Like you have to know what red paint, blue paint, and yellow paint are, but you mix red and blue and you get purple, and you mix blue and yellow and you get green. And so the vocal artist palettes of colors in their voices, you need to know your primary vocal colors, but then how do you mix that to create this rainbow of really what we're hearing in this music? And that's kind of the artistry in all of it, right? And you might not like pink or you might not like green, but that doesn't mean you don't recognize what it is, right? So that's kind of when we think about this descriptor of what I was listening to, that vocal overlay to me initially, I was like, oh, it's tribal sound. It's very forward. It's the resonance is vastly different from the one we heard before.
Well, I find it really interesting that she's able to go into the upper register at the end. Because you would think, to be fair, I sang nasal for like 4 years of my life. And so I know it's pretty easy to go up into the upper register, but it does still have like that dominess, even though it's quite pointed. And I find that the anatomical aspects are really interesting because that's an individual experience. Like that singer can individually do that, whereas some other singer, if it was pointed in that sort of forward placement, let's call it, then going up into the upper register might be harder for that person. So it's interesting how the individual like anatomy of this part of the body is able to produce and go up. Now, of course, maybe there's some like, like some sort of vocal support in the, maybe there's some, I think you call it makeup. I forget what you called it earlier. So,
the vocal airbrushing that happens.
Like I'm sure there's a little bit of that. However, I think it's really interesting that's, you know.
She's got to be able to do it. And my question, when I was listening to it, I started listening to see if I thought it was the same person that was layered or whether they had a chorus of
It sounded like it.
Singing.
It sounded like it. It's in the lower harmony. It sounded like it was her.
And I don't know. And I was trying to think about, because I couldn't quite tell by listening. But it was very, regardless of whether it was her doing all of it or whether they had multiple people, it was vocally well matched in the timbre situation. But that idea of like that, like being able to get up there, for sure, you can get up there and stay forward. It is a different footprint resonance-wise than doing it in a classical space. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't sound the same. But you can do it.
It's cool. I know you also work with, you said you work with hip-hop and R&B folks as well. There was this song called A Worn Scabbard. It's from this game called Wuthering Waves. And it's interesting because it's in Chinese and in English. And I bring
The singing's in Chinese and English?
Mm-hmm. And I bring this up because I think it would be interesting to talk about language and how much language impacts vocal production, if at all, which I think it does.
完成夜色故人，照渡我半生。风卷来就添双尘，闻声而来，已是何人？这一切像昨日旧惊魂。 记故人，记我了罗生。烛影中迷雾千踪万痕，谁能辨认前路是幻是 来就贴双尘，问生而来你是何人？这一劫现昨日旧惊魂，记故人，记我了罗生。烛影中迷雾间走万痕，谁能辨认前路是幻是真？我要天下巨大，战罢平生的风浪。我要江湖之远，占据心中中仓皇。像一只飞鸟冲破云霄，我冲破迷惘。我要恩仇之下都不忘。踏破烛影，摇曳着闪烁，像已埋伏在这夜楼的涌动，花火的永恒人无形无踪。一心为眼，一血为墨，一剑致命，大开大合，天地为之染了色，我也着了魔。什么万两山，狗血的风波，飞蛾咬不江湖的火。什么背后的恶臭，快意的死，突然注定要成浪客的我。这儿天天上下一切，太阳太阳口水热，我只一剑斩心魔。
I think it's really interesting because you get at the beginning of this song, there is definitely an Eastern musical feel. You get somebody singing in an Eastern language, but in a Western vocal style.
It's so interesting, right?
Right? And so the words are not English, but the style is definitely a Western style of singing in a very contemporary pop feel.
Yeah.
Then you get to the rap section, which is very traditional rap, but using Chinese words. And then you come back to that. Then what was interesting, like I think it was before the rap section, is that there were a couple of chords that were more Eastern sounding chords, like coming to the end of that section. And I was like, oh, we're going to go into this Eastern feel. And then I think it didn't at all.
It went back, yeah.
The only Eastern feel you got was actually in the instruments, not in the vocals. Yep. The rap was, very, in my opinion, like super traditional rap. And then we get that very much overlay at the end of that da 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 with that da 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 da. So you get the vocal percussion with the legato overlay of that vocal line, which gives it a very modern feel. Like this, very modern.
What I find interesting is that the first half of this, the person who's singing, it's a bit. What can you remind me when there's an overproduction of breath? Is that hyper? I can't remember.
It's usually hypo because you don't have the closure, or you're
Right.
getting an air leak somewhere. Like, we can, so the vocal folds don't close up all the way.
Right.
Extra air is getting through. Then we sometimes can hear that breathiness. Sometimes people do it in different configurations. Sometimes people just blow more breath through because you can go from that continuum of breathy to pressed on the same pitch. So you could get like right, like so. That's a closure issue. So when we get that very intimate
Right.
I also feel like we hear that a lot in contemporary commercial music.
1000%. It's like a choice. It's like
It's
an
a
expectation.
choice.
Yeah.
And I do wonder whether that vocal contrast is on purpose, because when you get into the rap portion of this, it's the opposite of the breathy. It is almost vocally aggressive. So you almost, I mean, in my head, if I'm thinking Chinese, I'm like, is it the yin and the yang, right? Like, is it that black and white that they're doing vocally, that very soft, right? Like, is it that, are they making that contrast vocally and musically?
Yeah, I think based on the character, yes. But I think it's interesting too that then the same singer then goes up and the ba ba it goes up into that real clarion, very crystal clear thing after having that hypo sort of, what's the full term for that?
Hypofunctional or
hypofunction.
I don't know that it's even that. So sometimes you can just get on that mic really close. If I'm like really right here, da 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 da, which really might not be his singing voice, and then you go up. So I do see a lot of singers that have that ability to do that, right? Yep. Because they need that intimate, quiet sound, and they use breathiness to do that. And then but their real voice is not that.
It's so interesting. And do you think that, like, given whatever the language is, can also impact the vocal production?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of like guttural, like
back sounds,
sure. We get that. And then so it's interesting how, and I don't think people ever think about this, but like where we place our vowels or where the vowels are in the tongue position. If you have an sound and then you have to go to an e sound, that's a different tongue placement, which can also can get in the way, correct, of producing.
Absolutely. And I do see a lot of so if we have like a non-native English speaker trying to sing American music, depending, sometimes if the vowels don't exist in that language, it's very difficult for them to get that ideal space. And similarly for English speakers to go to, say, like Russian or Chinese or any other language, really, will you sound like an authentic native speaker? And there are sounds in other languages that we don't have, and that sometimes are difficult for us to be able to produce. That's dialect coaching too, right?
That is, I know. It's always so interesting. We haven't done any opera. All told, I know obviously when I asked you here, and obviously you really don't know much about video game music at all. Like, what has been your impression of this? I mean, I've obviously thrown a bunch of styles at you, but like we haven't actually talked about what you feel about the pieces themselves. Like, is this surprising? Like, what were you expecting?
I'm surprised that there is this much vocal music in video games. That is surprising to me. Yeah. I'm surprised at the vocal styles. I mean, I'm aware of the vocal gymnastics that occur for my clients that voice characters sometimes, and how challenging that can be, that they're going in the studio and laying these characters down or creating these character voices. The vocal aspect, the singing aspect, is huge. And it's a whole industry, but you've got to be proficient in jazz, R&B, hip hop, rock, classical, early music. Like I'm amazed at the amount of early music sound, whether it's the boy choir, whether it's that very pure, clean sound. Although there is some, you played me some with some distortion. There's not a lot of electronic music or synthesized voice, which sort of surprised me. I would think there would be more of that.
I see. You mean like AI, or you mean like you mean synthesized, like
synthesized
Vocaloid?
voice, where they're like playing like 135, and it's just on a synthesizer, and it's just making the voice.
Do you know what Vocaloid music is?
No.
I don't think I can play you any because of copyright. That's
I'll have to go listen to it though.
Hatsune Miku. Surely you've heard of this. Hatsune Miku. Comments, correct me if I'm wrong. But so Vocaloid is actually like voice done on a computer. Hatsune Miku is like the most famous version of this, where it's like it's real music, but it's all just computerized, and it sounds like a voice. But,
we're getting real close. I mean, some of the AI things in my world for voice biometrics, and it's terrifying and interesting at the same time. That's another conversation. Just listening to the music that exists in video games, you make me want to go listen to what my kids are listening to.
I'm curious what they're playing.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think any of them are home right now. They used to play Minecraft, but that's a little.
Minecraft's got beautiful music,
but there's something about a ship. There's like there's a boat one that I forget.
Boat one.
They're gonna
You know,
yell
maybe
at
we
me.
have you back, and next time we have you with your 21-year-old son.
My 21,
And
my
he can-
16-year-old is more my gamer, but yes, both of them.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we bring. Maybe he'll be your Sherpa.
He would be mortified, but yeah, he would totally do it. He's a nerd, and he actually likes music, and he likes country music. So you could play some country music on there.
All right.
All right, so let's listen to this last one.
Let's listen to some opera. So this is Resident Evil. Do you know what Resident Evil is? Okay, zombies, and there's a story, and it's interesting. But this is from a game called Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, which I don't know anything about. But this is the theme of Alexia Type 2. So I'm sure she's some sort of a mutated person. You know, think she used to be a beautiful young lass, and the virus infected her, and now she's we have to fight her. I don't know. Oh, she missed it. That's actually, I didn't realize that she missed both those.
The C. I think those are high C. My piano's literally on the other side of the room. I was about ready to walk over there. I don't think they're higher than C's. Do you? I don't think they're.
No,
E's.
I think so. But but that's always interesting. Is it flat or is it flat in the resonance? I remember always hearing this, where it just sags.
Yes, and how do I say this nicely? Like let me rephrase it. I'm going to just pose it as a question to you. Do you think that voice that you hear would make it in a professional opera setting?
It's very legit. I think so. Okay. It's just the problem is just the upper register stuff because it's not the middle high. It's just the high that falls.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because it's recorded. So it's like it's impossible to know if it would
fly. I just don't know. And not that we all need to have big voices in that opera world.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's certainly. And then the other thought I had is like, yay, opera singers are going to have more opportunities than just trying to make it in the opera world all the time. They can go voice some video game recordings. Yeah. Like there's more financial opportunities for all of us as singers, not just opera singers. But you got to have a legit instrument to do that for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It is certainly in line with a classical feel, a classical sound, classical instrumentation, all of the things, right? So finding what that is, and again, I think because of the nature of the piece, it's also vocally repetitive to have to do that
constantly.
It's like singing Carmina Burana, where you're like a soprano going. Like you just sit up there all the time, and that's really vocally fatiguing, right? And so when I hear something like this, because it has to be however long it has to be, and we get that repetitive theme over and over of like that high stuff, go to the high C, go to the high C, go to the high C. I mean, I'm sure we could go back and listen to it, but like, I wonder as the piece went on, whether we started to hear that slightly under feel, brilliance, whatever you want to call it, as the piece went on, and because of fatigue. I don't know. I would assume they would correct that on the soundboard.
You would assume, but you're right. I mean, that's such a great point because then you start to lose luster because it's impossible. I mean, and I will say that's one of the predicaments with video game music is that sometimes it's written in a way where it's not actually vocally practical to actually be able to reproduce it. So you could do it once in a specific setting, but then when it comes to applying it, or let's say you had to do it live, where it would just kill you. It's very interesting. It's probably one of the only flaws I can think of when it comes to like certain vocal music. And
even when I work with like my commercial artists that go out and do live performances, we always have the conversation of when you go to lay things down in the studio for your album that you're going to now go out and sing, can you do it like every day? Don't lay something down that you can only do like 5% of the time because your audience might go nuts for that thing, aka in this case maybe it's that high C, where you have to sing it 27 times in the song. That is not that it's impossible, it's unrealistic, I think, to expect that to be at the level maybe you want it all those times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very interesting conversation, and I know I can't thank you enough for coming.
Oh my gosh, this was so different than anything I've done ever.
I love it. I mean, I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time. I was introduced to things that I didn't know existed. So, and I will analyze voices every day, all day, and I love it. Like, that just makes my heart happy.
That's so amazing. And now you have something to talk about with your sons too.
I know.
Like, hey, I heard this track from
Absolutely.
such and such.
So I thought of the one game that the one of them plays is called Sea of Thieves. Is that a game?
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
Oh, they're okay. They're not up to anything bad.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a charming game.
I know I probably should have more supervision on that, but
No, they're okay. It's good. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Wendy
it's my
LeBorgne, and
pleasure.
thank you everybody for watching. I hope you learned something. I feel like we got a real quick and dirty deep dive into vocal pedagogy and vocal production and stuff. So thank you so much, and see y'all later. Thank you so much.
bye. Thanks for having me.